Every product makes certain promises, and every customer has certain expectations. And in this video, I'm going to discuss the implied assurances that board game purchasers might receive when they pick your game box up off the game store shelf. I'm Adam Porter, and I'm the designer of a number of tabletop games, including Pikoko, which was published by Brain Games in 2018. When I was pitching Pikoko to various companies, one publisher was particularly enamoured with the gameplay. He said it was the most exciting new twist on trick-taking that he had seen in years. I was delighted, of course, I really wanted to hear that, but he then went on to say that he wouldn't publish it. And in fact, he advised me that nobody would ever publish Pikoko because it required the use of card holders, and card holders are expensive to manufacture, which would push up the retail price of the game, and a bigger price would necessitate a bigger box to ensure that the customers would perceive that they were paying the correct price for the product. And regardless, the card holders would not fit into a small box. But the game experience, as exciting as this publisher found it, he considered to be a small box experience. It's an observation that I can relate to. While Brain Games did a great job as the eventual publisher of Pikoko, that critical publisher's comments were insightful, and they've stayed with me over the years. I've aimed the same criticism at several other games myself. In Wolfgang Sendker and Ralf zur Lind's Animals on Board, players lay out a number of animal tiles onto the table and then take turns dividing them into separate groups or taking a group of animals for their own collection. It's a so-called I split, you choose game, where the players are avoiding taking pairs of animals. The game works really well. It would make a brilliant, simple card game. Yet the animals aren't represented on cards, they're on thick tiles, and each player's tiles are placed into a largely unnecessary cardboard rack. The whole production necessitates a large box and a price point to match, but a simple deck of cards would have sufficed. Antoine Bauser's Oceanos is an even more egregious example of this. The game is a fun drafting exercise, it feels a bit like Sushi Go, but the box is the same size as Ticket to Ride, with a price point to match. So the outward presentation of our product sets expectations in the user. A big box implies that the gameplay is going to be deep and immersive, and the price point usually complements this. Games with a long duration would be expected to remain engaging throughout. You might expect a degree of complexity, and they should reward skillful play over chance. Games that advertise a younger age range are likely to be simple to learn, and they might have more random elements in them and maybe more toyetic components. The art style tells us something about the experience we can expect. Is it bright and breezy, or is it dark and sombre? 20 years ago, it was easier to look at a piece of art and tell if it was aimed at adults or children. Publishers utilised this in their board games, putting very serious-looking historical paintings on the covers to make them acceptable to adult audiences. In recent years, though, those lines have been blurred, with animated films from companies like Pixar appealing to adults and children alike, and many cartoony-looking video games are being played by adults. Games bought in a supermarket or a toy store, at least in the UK, carry the expectation of being easy to learn, frivolous experiences, maybe random pastimes for children or holiday party games for adults. Whereas customers purchasing games in a specialist store might reasonably expect more nuanced, modern design with clever mechanisms and beautiful components. Board game players have a shorthand language based on their experience with other games. In roll and move games, the central mechanism is so familiar that some mass-market games don't even feel the need to explain how it works in their rule set. In hobby games, concepts like worker placement, deck building and card drafting are widely understood by many gamers, and this makes games in that genre easier for them to adopt. These past experiences also set expectations for what a new product should be like, feel like, look like, and what mechanisms should be employed. Subverting these expectations could create a great piece of art, but it might also create barriers which only serve to alienate the players. To return to my game, Pikoko, the game attracted the attention of major toy companies. It was even nominated for a prestigious toy award, primarily because of its toy-like appearance. The difficulty with the product is that the gameplay is not at all toy-like. It's tactical and deductive, with an element of bluffing and pushing your luck. Customers become confused or dissatisfied when there is a disconnect between the apparent promise made by the product's presentation and the genuine experience of playing the game. Here's another example of such a disconnect in a game that I personally love. If Wishes Were Fishes is a medium-weight economic game where players manipulate stock prices of various types of fish. It's a buy low, sell high sort of affair with a clever central card drafting mechanism. I find the gameplay really rewarding, and it's always gone over well with all the other gamers that I've introduced it to. It is not, however, a game for children. So why do the fish look like they've been copied straight out of a child's picture book with silly puns on their names? And most weirdly of all, why is the currency in the game represented by purple rubber worms? The game ended up in bargain bins and discount stores after release, and it never achieved the recognition it deserves, I suspect because consumers were confused by it. There is an analogy often quoted by marketing professionals regarding Super Mario and his fire flower. It's so widely quoted I can't locate an original source, but the analogy goes something like this. Imagine Mario is our customer, and we're trying to sell a product, the fire flower. The mistake many companies make is that they focus on promoting the fire flower. They focus on the appearance of it, the features, the way that it functions. But here's where the focus of the marketing really should be. To paraphrase, customers don't purchase products, they purchase a better version of themselves. The promise established by the outward presentation of our product should make clear the incredible experience offered by that product, the way it's going to make you feel, the problems it's going to help you overcome. Mario doesn't care about the fire flower, but he might care about what it could help him to achieve. In commercial terms, Monopoly is one of the greatest board game products in existence. Its success is largely related to its long history and its wealth of familiar brand assets. Go to jail, free parking, do not pass go, community chest, etc, etc. These have all become part of our language. But the game is extremely self-aware. Hasbro understands and values that brand. When players recall their experiences with the game, they'll tell anecdotes about stealing money from the bank or games that seem to go on forever. Take a look at these two recent editions of the game. Hasbro is in on the joke. They're doubling down on your negative experiences and making them a selling point. And take a look at the promise in that Cheaters edition. It's signalling very clear how you are going to feel playing that game. Mr. Monopoly's clenched fist is overflowing with stolen banknotes. He's shushing you, inviting you to join him in the criminal underworld. The cover text asks, what can you get away with? The promise is that you're going to feel naughty playing this game without any real-life consequences. It's telling that the Monopoly logo has changed over the years. Where once Mr. Monopoly was looking into the middle distance with arms spread wide, in recent years he's changed tack. He's looking us straight in the eye and reaching out, offering us a hand to welcome us into his world. The assurance is clear. If you play well, you'll get to be like rich Uncle Pennybags with his bulging sacks of cash. But how does this relate to the board game designer? Aren't all these decisions made by a publisher? Well, firstly, in the era of crowdfunding, many designers publish their own games. And even if you don't, these factors should be a serious consideration for any board game designer who wants to achieve commercial success. It was my choice to make the bulky, expensive card holders in Pikoko. They were central to the design. It was my choice to fill my game throne with 40 dice. This has implications for the final product, irrespective of any publisher decisions. It dictates a certain price, a certain box size, and hence it sets expectations for the consumer about the gameplay. The game designer also generally picks a theme for their game, and familiar settings imply a certain style of gameplay. If I see bloodthirsty orcs, I'm expecting combat. If I see ornate gardens, I'm not expecting cutthroat competition. Of course, a publisher will sometimes change a theme to fit their own catalogue, but nobody understands the gameplay better than the board game designer, and nobody is better positioned to integrate a theme into the product. To use Throne again as an example, it has a generic fantasy theme, and as such sets an expectation of somewhat familiar gameplay experiences. Yet the gameplay is anything but generic. It's a bit odd, it's quite silly, it's often funny, and it's always chaotic. The chosen theme might be perceived as a mismatch. Now I should be clear that the setting for Throne was chosen by me rather than the publisher. Perhaps the game would have connected with players better if I had chosen a setting that was a little bit sillier. Look at this similarly weird trick-taking game, Bucket King 3D. Nobody is looking at that box and expecting anything other than a wacky, chaotic experience. It delivers on its promise. I'm going to take a look at some of the other board games on my shelf and determine what the promise is that they're making, and do they deliver? What does this say to you? To me, that says this is a serious game for adults. I know what it's all about, I know what the theme is going to be, but it looks boring. Now, I believe that if this game had come out in 2021 with this cover, it would not have been a success, irrespective of the fact that it's a fantastic, fun, economic game. The reason Power Grid is so successful is because it has a legacy of positive reviews and people talking about it online and holding it in the highest regard. It has a great reputation, but the cover would not fly in 2021. Okay, let's look at Abandon All Artichokes. This is a game I've recently picked up. I've seen a lot of people quite confused about this game online. It's clearly a massive hit. It's doing really well. Lots of people are talking about it. This is a My First Deck Builder, okay? That tin tells me what's going on here. This is a silly game for children. It's in a little wacky shaped tin with, this is a raised surface on the front with the artichoke on there. It's from Game Right, who make that sort of game. I know the brand, okay? I know what I'm getting with this game. I'm getting something in the same line as Sushi Go. And yet online, I see a lot of people confused because they've seen all the buzz and they think this is going to be a deck builder, which it is, but they're expecting something like Dominion or something like Ascension or a million other deck builders out there, and they're not getting that. They're getting a child's game. So even when you go to great lengths, as Game Right have done here, to sell exactly, it's clear, this could go in a supermarket, okay? It's obvious what it is, but people still get confused because they see the buzz and they play it and they rate it with their preconceptions about what a deck building game should be. What does this tell me? It tells me what the theme is, that it's all about nature. The name itself explains exactly what the central mechanisms of the game are going to be, about survival of the fittest and evolving of animals. This lovely, beautiful watercolour artwork, and it really is beautiful, but it suggests quite a serene sort of atmosphere to the game. It suggests something quite zen, quite low-key, quite calm. And actually, the gameplay is quite aggressive. Okay, it's quite bloodthirsty sort of game. You're attacking each other quite a lot. That's not everything that happens in the game, but it is a large feature of it. And so you can understand some players might play this game expecting something quite calm and relaxing and beautiful, which it is, but they're going to get upset when they get attacked. I think a game that does it really well is Takenoko. I think it's really clear from this box exactly what Takenoko is going to be like. We've got a beautiful box. The colour palette is different to virtually every other game that I've got. These nice pastel images. We can see the panda in the rain and all the beautiful bamboo growing around it. I bought this game early in my sort of interest in modern board games, and I didn't really know what I was getting. I bought it because I liked the cover. I liked the images on the back of the box, which show all the gameplay. And it lived up to all my expectations. It was every bit as beautiful and cartoony and fun and funny as I expected from the cover. Anyway, I won't keep going through all this stuff on my shelves. I may come back to this in future videos, but if you enjoyed the video, please watch some of my others. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next video.